welcome to this video. Today I'm going to give you a tour of my new Google Sheets monthly, weekly, and daily planner. I'm going to walk you through how it works and all the features that are included. So if you already have the template, it's a good idea to follow along while you're filling out your own version. So I hope you like it, and let's get into it. So the very first thing you're going to do is you're going to go through some initial setup. So you're going to jump into the initial setup tab and you're going to select the month that you're going to be working with, and you're going to set a year, and this will work any month, any year. And then you're going to decide if your calendars should start on Sunday or Monday. And once you do that, you're going to notice that dates throughout the template are going to get filled automatically. And as you can see, my calendars are starting on Monday. You can choose Sunday as well. And then you're going to decide the time at which you want your daily schedules to begin. So that could be 6 a.m. for example. And once you do that, you're going to notice that every single one of your daily schedules gets filled out starting with the time that you selected. So on step 2, you're going to customize the dropdowns that are going to be used throughout the template. And there's 2 dropdowns. There's one for priorities and then there's one for categories. And I already added some values as examples, but feel free to select them, delete them, and replace them with your own. So your priorities are going to be used on your daily to-do list. So if you select any weekly tab and you scroll down to find a daily to-do list, you're going to see this drop down right here that includes every single value that you customized over here. So my suggestion is that you keep this texts short so they don't take up too much space. You can also just do emojis. My favorite one is to do numbers 1 through 5 or 1 through 10. And then the category dropdowns are going to be used a bit more. You're going to find them in the dynamic calendar over here. You're going to find them in your daily schedules and your daily to-do lists. So every single one of the values that you add in these 2 sections are going to be used to create dropdowns throughout the template. And finally, you're going to set up your time zone so that your current date updates automatically depending on where you are in the world. So you can see instructions over here. You're going to click on File, Settings, and then from this option over here, you're going to select the time zone that applies to wherever you are in the world. And then you're going to click on Save Settings. These are all the things that you need to do to get started. Everything else is optional. So we're going to go through the template first, and then I'm going to show you all of the other optional things that you can change. So the template includes 8 main tabs. You get a monthly overview tab, you get a dynamic calendar, and then 6 weekly tabs that look and work exactly the same way. So at the beginning of each month, the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to map out a general overview of what your month is going to look like. And you're going to do that with the help of the monthly overview tab and the dynamic calendar tab. And as you can see, both of these tabs include a calendar layout, but the way they work is completely different. So the calendar in the monthly overview is a static calendar. You're going to add your information directly into these cells. So I'm going to show you an example of what it could end up looking like. You could just type in your information and leave it black and white, but if you're more visual, you can play around, merge cells, change background colors, add emojis, and just make it as pretty or as simple as you want. And the most important thing to remember about this calendar is that everything that you add here will only exist here. It's not connected to anything else. So I like to think of this calendar sort of like a whiteboard, a free space where I can brainstorm a general idea of what the month is going to look like. So you can start by adding your top goals for the month over here, and then based on that, you can create the general structure of what your month is going to look like, what you're going to focus on each week. And again, it's a free space, but my suggestion is that you use this for big picture stuff. Now, anything that's more specific and that you want to be reminded of on your weekly tabs, you're going to add in the dynamic calendar. So in this calendar, you're not going to add your tasks directly into the calendar cells. As you can see, they have a colored background. That means they're automated and you should not edit them. Instead, you're going to add your tasks in this table right here. And then whatever you add in here is going to be automatically displayed in the corresponding date in the calendar view. So for example, if you want to add something on February 10, you're going to jump into your table. You're going to type in the number 10. You don't need to add the month or the year. All you have to do is set the day. And as you can see, automatically the full date gets created over here. And then you can add pay rent, for example. And as you can see, it will immediately show up in your calendar. So every time that you need to add a task, you're going to add it in this table. So let's say that same day, it's your mom's birthday. So you add that in here and immediately it's going to show up in your calendar view. And then this is optional. You can also assign a category. So mom's birthday, that's going to be birthdays, and then pay rent, that's going to be finances. And what this is useful for is if you want to highlight tasks that belong to a specific category in the calendar, you can use this highlight drop down over here. So you're only going to see the categories that you have used already in this table. So for example, I select finances and it's going to highlight the only task that I have right now that was assigned to that category. If I highlight birthdays, it's going to highlight this one instead. So we only have 2 tasks right now, but it gets useful when you fill this out a bit more. And then you can mark your tasks as done. For example, pay rent. If you mark it as done, it's going to get scratched and it's going to show up with a check mark. And you can also choose to not display the tasks that are already done. So you can do that by unchecking this box right here. As you can see, when I uncheck it, anything that's done will disappear. So in the dynamic calendar, you're only gonna edit this table right here, these white cells. And remember, you should only add the day and then the full date gets created automatically over here. So you should never edit this column. And one of the coolest features about the dynamic calendar is that it's also connected to your weekly tabs. So if I jump into week 3, I'm going to use this link over here. I'm just going to click here. I'm going to click on the blue link. I'm going to jump to week 3. And if we take a look at February 10, which is where I added both of my example tasks, and I scroll down, you're going to find this section called planned items. And this is where you're going to see every single one of the tasks that you added in the dynamic calendar. So anything that you add in there will be automatically displayed in its corresponding day in this planned items section right here. So you should never edit this section manually. It's automated and it will always be synced with your dynamic calendar. And as you can see, there's a counter displaying how many of these tasks are open. That means how many tasks you haven't marked as done. So if you wanted to mark this as done, let's say you already called your mom, you can hover over the task or you can click on it. Then you're going to click on this blue link and that's going to immediately jump back into the dynamic calendar into the cell where you can find that task. So you can easily locate it and then mark it as done. So if I go back into week 3, I scroll back down to that section, you're going to see both of those tasks are now marked as done and I don't have any tasks open. So I'm going to show you a version that I already filled out. I added more tasks in here and there's a couple of other features that you're going to find in this calendar. First, any task that hasn't been marked as done that belongs to a date that has already passed will be highlighted in red. So that will be gone once you check the box. And then the current day will be highlighted in this gray color. I'm going to check a couple more boxes. And you can add tasks in any order that you want. And if you scroll to the very end of the tab, you're going to find an additional table that's going to display all of the tasks that you added, but it's going to be sorted. So you can decide if you want to sort it by date, by category, by event or task name. And you can also choose to send the ones that are done to the bottom, or you can just have them mixed up in there. So you can change this as often as you like. This is dynamic and it's going to get created automatically based on the tasks that you added over here. So you can add things in any order here and then you can view them sorted in this table. And again, these are also links. So if you click on the task name and then you click on the blue link, you're going to jump into the task so you can mark it as done. So this calendar works as a preview and it can display a maximum of 8 tasks per day. If you add more, let's do an example over here on February 3rd. So I'm just going to add more tasks in there. Once you're over 8 tasks, you're going to see the number of tasks that are not being displayed. So what you're going to do then to zoom in into that day is you're going to scroll to the right and you're going to find the specific day view. So over here in this dropdown, you're going to select the date that you want to display. You will only see dates that have tasks in them. So you're going to find that date and then you're going to be able to see every single one of the tasks that you added. And in this view, you're also going to see the category that's assigned to each task. So you get the category and then you get the task. So basically what you're seeing here is exactly the same thing that you're going to see on each of your weekly tabs when you jump into the planned items section. And every single one of these tasks is also a link. And again, each of these tasks are also links. So you can click on them, hover over them, and then click on the blue link, and you're going to jump into this table as well. And as you can see, even though we're working on February, the calendar is also displaying days from adjacent months. So these days over here that are grayed out actually belong to the previous month. They belong to January, and then February starts on this Sunday right here. So if you wanted to add a task or event into one of the adjacent months, what you're going to do is you're going to add the day. So let's do 28 over here. And then you're going to add an asterisk. You type in your task and you're going to see it appear in that corresponding day. And you can do the same thing for the next month. So February 28 ends here. But if you wanted to add something on March 1st, for example, you can type in 1, add an asterisk, and that tells the spreadsheet that this day belongs to an adjacent month, and then new task 2, and you're gonna see it appear over here. So these are the two calendars that are included. You can use this too however you prefer. My suggestion is that you use this section for the big picture, and then you add specific deadlines, reminders, events, or tasks that you can map out at the beginning of the month and that you want to be reminded of on your weekly tabs. So once you're done mapping out the general overview of what your month is going to look like, you can jump into your weekly tabs and you can get more specific. So as I mentioned, there's 6 weekly tabs included. They all look and work exactly the same way. So the first thing that you're going to see over here is a mini calendar. Just for reference, it gets filled out automatically, and the week that you're currently working on, so week 3, that's going to be highlighted in pink, and then the current day is going to get highlighted in gray. So I'm currently viewing a week that's in the future for me. So the first thing that you're going to do when you start planning your week is you're going to set an intention for the week. So this can be anything that you want to be reminded of throughout the week that's going to keep you grounded and focused. So it could be progress over perfection, for example. And then you're going to take a look at this section over here. This is going to get filled out automatically with the goals that you add in the monthly overview. So anything that you add here is always going to be displayed on your weekly tabs so that you can look at this every day and be reminded that this is what's important this month and that you need to be working towards this. And if you accomplish something and you check the box, that's also going to get updated automatically over here. So you don't have to do anything other than read this. And then down here, you have room to set your top 5 priorities for the week and then other weekly tasks. And then you get 7 days that look and work exactly the same way. You can see the date automatically. You can see if you have any open planned items. So if you see any items that are open, it's a reminder for you to scroll down over here, take a look and see if anything needs to be added into either your schedule or your daily to-do list. So over here, you have space to add your top priority for the day. So this can be your most important task, and once that's done, you can check the box over here. And then you have a daily schedule. So all of these are drop downs with the categories that you customized. So you can select a category and then you can add an event over here. So again, you can keep it simple like this, or you can play around with it and merge cells and change background colors to make it prettier. You can also merge cells that represent big blocks of time instead of adding each individual event. So how you use this is entirely up to you. And the start time for each day will be the start time that you customized in the initial setup. And then if you scroll down, you're going to find a daily to-do list. So what you're going to see here is a drop down with your priorities, a drop down with your categories, and then you're going to go ahead and add your task. And adding a priority and assigning a category is completely optional, but you do need to add something in the task column for that row to be considered. So I'm just going to do new task. And then when you check the boxes, the progress bar will move. And then over here, we've been over this. These are just the items that you added in your dynamic calendar. And if you don't want to include the items that are already done in this list, you can just uncheck this box. And as you can see, anything that's done will not be displayed, and only things that have not been marked as done will be considered open. So this is automated and you should never edit this directly. And then below that, you're going to find 4 sections that are completely optional to use. I labeled them in a way that's useful to me, but you can change those labels to something that makes more sense for you. So I'll use this section to plan my meals. Then I use this section to plan my workouts. Usually I'll just do a YouTube video. So I'll add the link here and just specify what the workout is going to be about that day. And then then I added some space for gratitude and room for notes, but you can use these 4 sections however you prefer. It's a free space. And whenever a date has already passed, it's going to be scratched automatically, and the current day is always going to be highlighted automatically. And if you scroll to the very end, you're going to find your habit tracker. As you can see, the current day is also getting highlighted automatically. And the way this works is you're going to type in your habit, let's say wake up early, and then you're going to set the number of times that you want to complete this week. So let's say I want to do that 5 times. And the way this works is you're going to reach 100% when you check the same number of boxes that you set as your goal. So I'm going to add a second habit. So let's say I want to do this daily. You can either select 7 or you can leave it blank. So if this dropdown is blank, it's going to be considered a daily habit. So you can see the number of boxes that you have checked. And then once you check every single box, you're going to reach 100%. And you're going to see a counter over here that says you have completed 2 out of 2 habits. So you have reached 100% on 2 habits. And this same counter, you're going to see it over here, and this is also a link, so you can click in here and then click on the blue link, and it's going to bring you back into this section. So I'm going to show you a version that I already filled out a bit more. As you can see, I added more habits and then I set a goal for each one. And once you start checking boxes, you're going to see that these 2 tables update automatically. So on this first table, you're going to see your top 5 habits, anything that's over or equal to 50%, and they're going to be sorted by the number of times that you have completed each one. So you went to bed early and didn't have any sugary drinks 6 times, so those are going to be shown at the top regardless of the percentage. So this section is meant to help you celebrate your progress, and then this section over here is going to bring your attention to things that could use a bit more love. So anything that's below 50% is going to be shown here, and it's going to be sorted starting with the one that has the lowest percentage at the top. So both of these sections are automated. You should never edit anything here, and they're both going to show a maximum of 5 habits. And finally, if you scroll to the right, you're going to find your numeric trackers, and I'm going to show you a blank version. So you have room for 5 numeric trackers. You're going to be using this section for anything that's going to be tracked with numbers. I added some suggestions, but you can just select them, press delete on your keyboard, and then replace them with your own. So the way this works is you set your habit, you set a daily target. This has to be a number, no letters. So I'm just going to do 8 over here. And then every day you're going to jump into these cells and you're going to input what actually happened. So I'm going to fill it out. And as you can see, as I'm filling it out, graphs are updating automatically and the average is also updating automatically. And super important when it comes to the average, blank cells will not be considered. So I'm just going to do an example over here. I'm going to set 10 pages as my target, and then I'm going to do 10 on Monday, 10 on Tuesday. And as you can see, my average is going to be 10 because these are the only cells that are being considered. If you want an empty cell to be considered, then you need to add a 0. So as you can see, as soon as I added a 0, this cell was taken into consideration and that brought my average down. So that's everything that's included in the weekly tabs. You get 6 of them. And then to help you navigate the template, I also included a main menu tab. So you can use these links over here to jump into each section. And on each tab, you're going to see this hamburger button on the top left corner. So if you hover over it and you click on it, you're going to jump back into the main menu. And if the current week is found in this file, you're going to see a link over here. So you can easily use that to jump into your current week. As you can see today, this is my current week. Over here, these are also links to each of your weekly tabs. This is a link to the monthly overview. This is a link to the dynamic calendar. So I added links everywhere to help you navigate the template. And then as I mentioned at the beginning, during the initial setup, there's a couple extra things that you can do to customize the template. First, you can change the theme color. There's instructions over here. So you're going to click on Format, Theme, Customize, and then you're going to see every color that I used over here. I suggest that if the shade is a darker shade, you replace it with a dark shade of whatever color you're going to use. A lighter shade, you replace that with a light shade. There's instructions over here on how to change the color of the progress bars. These are the progress bars that appear on your daily to-do lists and your habit trackers. And finally, if you want to change any label throughout the template, you don't have to do it directly on each tab. You can do it from this table using your translation column. So if you want to change a label, you use the translation column over here, and that will update the entire template. And finally, once the month is over, you need to start fresh on a new blank copy of the template. So once you set this information over here and you start working on the template, you should never change this again. When you're ready to start fresh on a new month, you need to create a new blank copy of the template, and you can do that by jumping into the main menu tab and clicking on this link over here. So this is going to prompt you to create a new copy from the blank original template, and then you can customize your new monthly file. And if you decide that you're going to change the theme color, you're going to customize the progress bar, you're going to customize your labels, what I suggest you do is you change anything that's related to formatting without adding any month-specific data, and then you save that file as your blank original. So once you're done adding your priorities, your categories, you change the theme color, anything that you want to change that's related to formatting, when you're done with that, you can save this file as your blank original. Super important, you should not add any information that's specific to any month. This is just going to be changes that you want to do, that you want to save for future months. So you can rename this and name it blank original, for example. And then this is the file that you're going to use to create new copies every month. So next month, you jump back into this file, you click on File, make a copy, and then do March 2026, for example. You choose where you want to save it, you click on Make a Copy, and once that's created, you can go ahead, set your new month, and start working on a fresh copy of the template. So that's it for this video. I hope you liked it. I hope you found it useful. If you have any questions, I'm going to leave my email in the description so you can reach out. If you don't have the template already, you can find the link to purchase it in the description as well. And I hope you enjoy using it, and I hope it helps you get organized. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.